This is our data set. This is what we are working with. And from the very onset, you can say this. I think I explained this in my previous videos. So this shows you how valid or how error-free the column is. We can turn that off from right here. All right, like so. But I need it, so I'm turning it back on. Now, when it comes to data cleaning, one thing I advise is that you take a look at each column. It doesn't matter if they are 20 columns, 25 columns. I would advise that, and this is preference, this is personal preference, that you look at each column individually. Make sure that the columns are as you want them to be, or as your manager has instructed you to have it, before you start to load them and then start your analysis. Right, that's my preference because you never know what might be hiding somewhere. Right, and so we'll be doing that in this session. And so we are starting from this. Now, one important thing that you need to keep in mind is the data types. Now, when I say data types, I mean this, something like this. You see this 1, 2, 3 over here. So this 1, 2, 3 tells us that this particular column should be numerical, or the figures and digits, whatever that is in the column, should be numbers. Do you understand? It should be numbers. We can change this and then make this text. All right. But then, so as you can see, so text, so add text. But then the problem with it, if you have it in text, is that assuming we want to make some calculations, some additions, using some mathematical operations, because it's in text, it's not going to give you that opportunity to work with. I don't know if you understand. There's an issue with one of the two of the columns. We will get there for you to understand. But then if the data type is wrong, it's going to affect your analysis in such that in places that you are supposed to do some operational, use some operational functions like the plus, minus, multiplication, and addition, because it's in text form, you wouldn't be able to do that. It will just give you error, 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 because you are trying to multiply words. It's like trying to multiply Kofi and Amma or adding Kofi and Amma. So something like Kofi plus Amma, that wouldn't work. Do you understand? Because Kofi is in text form, Amma is in text form, or Accra multiplied by Kumasi, that wouldn't work. Do you understand? And so if the data type is in word, it doesn't matter if the figures are in figures, but as long as the data type is in word, it's read as if the items in that column is also in word form or in a text form. All right. And so we need to change this to any one of these. Decimals, the operational functions works with decimals, so that is fine. Fixed decimal numbers, this is fine. This currency, whole numbers, this is also fine, and so on and so forth. And so in this situation, these are whole numbers. And so we are going to change this, or we can equally, without doing that, we can equally come here. Like I said in one of my videos, these are apply steps. So whatever changes that we make is kept here. All right. So we can just, the change that we made, this is it, change type. So we can just cancel this, and then you see it's gone back to numerical. All right. So if you want to change the data type, all you have to do is to click these three things over here. It could be ABC, could be 1, 2, 3, could be this is true or false, could be time. So once you click on it, it gives you the options to choose what data type you want that column to be. Do you understand? And so in this particular case, we want it to be whole numbers. And so this is whole numbers. Now we are okay with age to be as numerical items. So we want it in whole numbers. Then we move on to the next one, which is membership type. The membership type, we want the membership type in text form. So it's already in text form because membership type is text. It's not numbers or decimals or anything. It's text. So it's advisable to have it in text form. So we leave it as text form, right? Then we come to visit per week. Now these are also in digits. So these are numerical. And so of course we have it here as whole numbers, and that is fine. Days per week, these are in words form, they are in text form. So you can't have it any other way than to have it in text form. And we have it here. So this, and this are all correct. All right. Now let's move on. Now this section is all about true or false. All right. And so if you click here, it only has true or false in them. And so if you click here, it shows you that this is also right because they're just true or false. So true or false, that is right. So we leave this as well as it is. All right. Now this particular one, all right, this is time. Time, we have it in time form, and this is correct. You might want to change this. Sometimes we find this in text. All right. Sometimes we just find it in text. You find it like this. There are times that you might find it like this, 8:39 a.m. and this, and then you might also find this also in text, or yeah, in text or maybe numbers or something. All right. So let's say you must also find this in text. In text. So like this. Now, if you are not careful and then you don't check this, you don't say that this is actually type, then you go ahead with it being in text form, this is going to cost you in future. Why? Because at a point in time, you might want to find the difference between this and this. Now, in this situation, it has already been calculated for you. It has already been done. A column had already been created for you. All right. That the difference between the average time checkout and the average time check-in is this. All right, is what is shown in this column. This is what this means. All right, this means the difference between this and this gives you this. All right, but then there are situations that when you find them in text and then you don't have this and you want to find the difference, that will be difficult for you to do. Why? Because you didn't check the data types. You left the data types as text, which is wrong. You understand? That means now these items in this column are coming off as text form. And like I explained with the age, if they are coming off as text form, there's going to be difficult for you to use the operational functions. That is the minus, multiplication, division, and addition. All right. So in this case, if you want to find the difference, it will just give you an error. So let's do an example. Let's see. Let me just show you an example. And so we want to find the difference between this and this. All right. So let's add a new column. And then say custom column. All right. There's a custom column. Okay. And then we have custom column. We are going to name this difference of check-ins. Check-ins. You can name it any other way you want to go. Of check-ins and checkouts. So you can name this any other way, but this is just to show you. And then now we'll go over what custom column is. Custom column is, so don't be frightened. So now let's go and see. So now what are we looking for? Check-ins, right? So average check-in. So average check-in and checkout. So average checkout insert minus average check-in insert. So on a normal circumstance, this is just it. And then okay. Now what are you going to realize? Now we are going to realize is that it's giving us an error, it's giving us errors. You understand? It's giving us errors. And why is it giving us errors? It's giving us errors because we are trying to multiply two text columns. It's text. And like I said, you can't use operational functions for text. Do you understand? So this will be giving you errors, and there's really nothing you can do once it's giving you error, other than to go back and check the data type, make sure the data type is correct, right? And so when I change this to the right data type, and I say, okay, now this is I'm using time. Now this is time, right? Sure. So I'm replacing the current with this. So this is time, and I'm replacing this also with time. Okay. I'm replacing it with time. So now I'm changing the data type to time. Now let's see if this is going to work. Now this is time. So you can times these things. You can subtract, you can add. So times numerics, this the this how do you call it? Let me see. Yeah, the decimals, fixed decimals, whole numbers, percentage, where's the time? The times. You can use operational functions for them. All right. So now let's work this out so that I show you. So now we are doing the same thing. This time we have a different data type. All right. So again, difference check-ins. So you can use any other ones and checkouts. All right. Okay. So again, we are going to go average time check-in insert minus average time check-in, checkout and check-in. All right. And then okay. Now what do we have here? Now you see that now it's giving us figures. All right. It's no more giving us errors. It's giving us figures. So it's giving us 1 hour 58 minutes, which is equivalent to what we have here in minutes. All right. Uh, which is equivalent to what we have here in minutes. So this is 1 hour 58 minutes. Do you understand? So 1 hour 58 minutes is given us is the same in minutes as 118 minutes. All right. All right. Good. So and then this given us 62. So let's see. This will be sure. The third one 62. So this is 62. 61 hours 60 minutes 2. So 62. All right. So it means that is right. So let's cancel this. So that is that for I just wanted to use that as the data type as I explained so that you will really get to understand and appreciate it. All right. So then again, now we are done with this. So this duration in Gym minutes. So the data type, we have it in whole numbers. That is correct. This is also true or false. So we have it true or false. So we have it here, true or false, and that's fine. This is correct. All right. Likewise, this also shows. So we look at it. Everything is fine. There's no problem here. This as well. So this is in text form. That is fine. All right. So subscription price. Now subscription price, because it's price, so we assume that this is money. We are looking at money. We are talking about money. So subscription price is money. So now I prefer that you leave it in whole numbers because I don't want confusion, the complications with the point zero zero. So I like to leave it as whole numbers, but it doesn't really affect it. If you leave it as whole number, you can also leave it as currency. So when you choose a currency as a point zero zero, all right, you choose it as a point zero zero, and so that is also perfectly fine. You don't need to worry about it, but just leave it in whole numbers. It's one and the same, so that is fine. Okay. And then the monthly the subscription model, we have it as monthly. Fine, adjusted pricing. We can have this. Now this is in decimals because you realize some of them have 22.5 and all that. Now, if you want to round these things up as well, there's a way to round them up. So you have something like 22.5, 37.5. You just want to have everything as a whole number. Now, there's an option here which is called rounded. So add column. I think it's also somewhere here, somewhere the transform. Yes, also you can find it at transform or add column. So transform. So you click on the column and then you come to rounding and then you just round and then it will ask you to how many decimal places. Like I say zero and then that works it out. So it takes away the point zero zero and then it just rounds it off. Do you understand? But I like to keep it with the decimal for now. So again, I go back and I show you how to do that. And then we have the discount type, which is in text form. This is fine. And then discount rate, this is figures, decimals, so you have the discount rate. But with the rate, again, you can just change it if you are not really familiar with the 0.05 or the 0.1, all that, and you want it in percentage because we are talking about rate. So obviously, rate is in percentages. You understand? And so if you're not really familiar with the point what, and what in percentage form, you can easily go here and then we can select percentage and that gives you 5.0% and all that, right? So this is 10.0, all that, and that is also perfectly fine. Now we have our final price as well. You can round it up if you want. You can change it to currency if you want. You can change it to whole number if you want. It's still fine, but you can't change it to text or you can't change it to text or true or false or binary. If you even try changing it to true or false, it will just give you it doesn't even make any sense. So you don't do that. So leave it in numerical form. Then access hours, all right, this is fine. And then there's this home gym location. Now, one thing that you can also do in scenarios like this, you have the home gym location. I realize that this is the state and this is the city, right? So California is the state, and then we have San Jose being the state or the province or whatever it is. Then we also have Fresno, we have Oakland, we have Anaheim, we have Sacramento, we have Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Oakland. Yeah. So we want to separate all of this so that we have the state in one column and then we have the cities in one column. All right. And we can do that. All you have to do is to come here and then we are going to split the column and we are going to split them by delimiters. All right. So we come here and then we right click. Now, once you right click, it's going to this pop drop down but item is going to show and there are so many things you can do from here. So, but in this case, we just want to split the columns. All right, we want to split them so that we have this separated from this. All right, so we come down to split column, and it's going to ask you, how are you splitting it? Are you splitting it by delimiter, by number of characters, by positions? And in this case, we are splitting by the comma, so that is delimiter. All right, it could be full stop, it could be dash, it could be underscore. Those are all delimiters. All right. So we are separating by delimiter. So click delimiter, and the delimiter is comma. Don't forget. And so this is comma, but I can also come here and now put it in there as comma. Okay. And then I'm going to click on OK. So what it's going to do is going to split this column into two. You are going to have this only for the states or the province and this for the city. All right. And then we can come right up here and then change the title. Let's say this is state and then this is city. Good, good. And then once we are done with that, we come here to latitude, we come to the longitude. Now you realize that the city and the state, we are not supposed to leave them as a. We can use the country, but we'll do that in another video. So we have the latitude, the longitude, then the join date. All right, and the join date is in date, so that is perfectly fine. All right, and then we have the personal training hours 1, 2, 3. These are numeric, so that is perfectly fine. And then we have this, and then we have that. So these are when it comes to data cleaning. Now, let's do one. Let me add a bonus at the end of this. So one thing that we can do is that looking at this age column, okay, we can do something called just finding the age bracket, okay, where we can use that where we can use that particular column to group these ages. All right. And so when we look here, we can see that the age starts from 12 years of age and ends somewhere 49. Okay, so we have from 12 to 49. And so what we can do is that we can group this and say that, all right. And so for those people that go to the gym, if your age is between or is equal to or less than 18 years, then we are going to say you are youth or you are adolescent or whatever you want to call it. So we'll say in this case, we say you are a youth. And we are going to say that if your age is above 35 years, you are an adult. And then if you are between the ages of 18 to 35 years, then we can say you are a young adult. All right. So that we can now use that age bracket to make our analysis going forward. Right. So let's do that. Now we can do that using the if function. All right. We can use that using the if function. But there's another easier way to do that in Power BI. And that's what I want to show you. So we come here down to add column. We are going to use what we call the conditional column. Now the conditional column works the same way as the if function. All right, the if you are familiar with Microsoft Excel, you know the if function, how it works. Say if this is less than or equal to this, then comma, then this, else this. Do you understand? And so that's how it works here as well. And so we are going to use a conditional column to do that. And so we are going to click on this, and pop-up is going to come, and then this is what it's going to show. So you get to add conditional column, and we are going to change the new column name, and we are going to say this is age bracket. All right, we are going to say this is age bracket. And so what are we looking at? So this box is showing something. It's saying that now if the column name and then there's an operator and then there's a value, then what should be the output? And at the end we have else, what should be the value? And so it's similar to if you know the in function in Excel where, so let me open this, where we have something like, so if this is greater than or equal to 100, then we say yes. We say, oh, why am I not seeing this right here? Uh, yeah, I'm sure you understand what I mean. My keypad is misbehaving, but you know, like in Excel, what we say, if something is greater or equal to or less than this, then comma, then we put it in the apostrophes, and then we say then this, else the comma, because that's what the logical we have the logical test, the value if true, and then the value if false. So that's how it works. Maybe when we are doing Excel, or we start our Excel series, I'll show you that in more details, all right? But for now, I just want you to have the idea that that's how it works. So the column name is saying that, so what is the column name? Which column are we taking or are we working with? We are working with the age column. And so saying that if the age column, all right, the age column is what? Is less than or equal to, like we said, 18. Then what are we going to say? Then we are going to say they are youth or young or young. Let's just do that. So if age is less than or equal to 18, then this. But you should understand that there are three logical distance working here in this scenario. And so we have one of them. Now there are two more. And so to get the next one, you need to add a clause or this clause. And this is going to say else if, so it's going to be if age is less than or equal to 18, then this. Else if again age is now greater than 35, then I'm going to say adult. So once I'm done with this, then I'm going to come there and say else. So if the age bracket is neither this nor this, then what are we going to say? That means if it is not less or equal to 18, and at the same time it isn't greater than 35, then now I'm going to say then or else we are going to say that will be young adults. All right. So now we are done, and then we click on OK, and that's what it's showing here. So our age bracket and it's showing this. So 18, so adults, young adults, so it's showing the logical functions that we put in there, and that's what you can see over here. All right. So if age is less or equal to 18, then youth or young. Else if age, so that is what it's showing right here. All right. So for this particular column. So now we have everything set up, and this is a part one of this. So looking at this column, one thing we can see is that they are null values. These are null values. So they are null values in our column. That's the first thing. Now, what else can we see in this column? Now, another thing that I can see is that the header has column 1. However, looking at this column and looking at this particular row, this one first row is supposed to be our header. Alright, the first row is supposed to be our header and not this column 1, column 2. And so we need to change this so that this first row becomes our headers. Do you understand? Alright, and that the null values are removed. Now, aside this, I mentioned in my previous video that if the items in a particular column are numbers and numerical, we need to change the data types into that to reflect the particular column. But in this case, we see that the numbers over here, the items over here are numbers, but the data type is showing text. All right, and so in the first instance, we need to change this to whole numbers. Do we understand? All right, so these are the three things that we've seen with this column: null values, header, and then data types. That's what we've seen. There's something I'd like to draw attention to before we proceed. Whenever you see null values, it's essential that you don't just rush into removing the null values. That would be terrible. That would be a very big mistake. All right, whenever there are null values, what is most advised is that you look at the rows to ensure that the null values is the same across that particular row. It is then and only then that you are allowed to remove the null values from your data set. Now, if the null value occurs in this particular column, but then a value appears on that same row but in a different column, you don't just remove null values, because removing this null value is going to affect the entire row. And so if there are values here, assuming there's a value here, column 6, I have something like another finance or accounting, and then in this particular column here, I have a name or something. If I remove this, I remove the null value from this column, it's going to affect all of this, and that might affect our data set. All right, and so you don't just go ahead and remove null values. Please, let's keep that in mind. Okay, you don't just go ahead and remove null values. And so what we can do is that to check whether the entire row is okay to remove, we come here. So this helps us to filter. So this is like the filter. If you are familiar with Excel, this is like filter. And so we come here and we filter. So I filter only the null values to see if I can take it out. All right, okay, and then I can just do that. So I can just remove empty because I've already gone through and I know the null values are empty. All right, I know the null value. I can just remove the null values. But then in your case, you can go through, you click the null values, and then you're able to check the entire row to see if the whole row is empty as well. Then you can go ahead and remove empty, okay, or remove the null values. Do you understand? Or you can select all of this, but then you leave the null unchecked, and so that will also work. All right. Okay, if there are any questions, can leave it down below. If you didn't understand something, I'll probably look at it. All right, and so now we are done with the first one, which is removing the null values, and so now we are set to go. Now the next thing that we need to do is that we need to replace these columns with these headers, because these are supposed to be the headers and not these. These are supposed to be the headers, and this is something that I've come across a number of times in this my data analytics journey. And I can tell you that you are definitely going to come across something like this. But then when you come across something like this, you don't panic. You just study the data set and you follow just what I'm about to show you. All right. And so once you see something like this, where the headers are supposed to be here, however, is being complicated, what we do is that we come to you go to home, and then I've said this before, you use what? You use first row as a header, because we want to use this first row, the items in this first row, as the headers. And so we come here, we go to home, come to use first row as headers, and then we click on this. And so what it's going to do is that it's going to replace, the headers are going to be replaced by the items that were in the first row. All right, so now let's proceed. So even doing this, the now Power BI or Power Query is able to read and say that, okay, now that the ID is here, the data type is actually supposed to change. The data type is supposed to be numbers and not text. Remember that before it was text, but now that the headers have been placed in their right places, it's affected the entire column. In some situations, it wouldn't affect them automatically, so you have to change them as well. And so if that is the case, if it doesn't affect it or it doesn't change, you just come to the data types, then you change it to whole numbers, and that is fine. And then this is date. All right. So remember that before we changed everything as the headers. This is how the date is supposed to be like. All right, so it automatically worked it out, but this is how it's supposed to be even after we have used the first row as headers. This is how our data set is supposed to be. And so once we see this, so some people will be lucky to just update the whole column, some wouldn't be lucky. And so if you are not lucky and after using the first row as headers, you still see your data sets like this, you don't have to panic. All you have to do is, like I said, you change your data types. So this is still in text, so you change it to whole number. All right, so now this is done. And then now you come here. Now, date is the most cumbersome column of all in data analytics in my experience. Now, this is even better. This format is better. It could be way worse, where in some situations you have to even separate the years, the months and days, do your cleaning, and then merge them again together. So sometimes the date column can be very, very, very hectic. But in this situation, we have this, we have some appearing as numbers, some appearing as text, but we know that this is supposed to be date. And so what we can do is that we can again come here to our data types and change the column to date, and that's going to fix it for us. All right, so when you see something like that as well, you don't panic, you just stay calm. Okay, now this column and this column, what can we see? Now there are two things that I can see, or three maybe. Now the first thing that I see is that this first name and last name, we should be able to measure them as one. Okay, this is Emmanuel, this is Azaglo, this is Daisy, Daku, Kinata, Kofi, Sabana, and so on and so forth. For to help in our analysis and to make our analysis, easier to understand and simple, a lot of the times it's better to just merge the dates. So it's merge the names, and this doesn't only apply with or to names. Sometimes it applies to geography. So like you have a country, you have city, you have state, and you realize that you can just merge them together. Then you can just put all of them together in one column rather than having them separated. That makes the whole thing plenty. So you can just merge them as one, so that you have, instead of first name and last name, you have full name. You understand? So you have Henry Amusa, you have Oscar Selassie as one. You understand? You have Kizia Kakwa as one. Things like that. That makes it easier for anyone that takes the data set. Do you understand? And so we'll be merging these two columns. And then another thing that we need to keep in mind is the fact that when you look at how the items are in the column, take something like this, Oscar Selassie. Now, this has spaces before the item. All right, and so we have there's something that we call to trim. We have trim. Now what trim does is that it removes any space before or after an item in a cell. Okay, so if there are spaces like this, if there are spaces before the item or the spaces after the item, that's going to affect our analysis. And so what we can do is that we just use a trim to remove the spaces. So any unnecessary space that we find in a particular column, we can just use the trim. All right, you can just use a trim. Use something called trim. It's a function, and the trim will trim all of those spaces out of that particular cell. Okay, and another thing that we need to also keep in mind is the fact that these names are spelled anyhow. So this Emmanuel has EMM being capital and then ANUL being small letters. It doesn't make sense. It makes the whole data very messy. Look at this. These are all small letters, and then these are all capital letters, and then this has unnecessary spaces, small letters. Some have small and capital letters mixed together. All right, and so what we can do is that we need to make them proper. Okay, we need to make them we can either make all of them capital letters, or you can make all of them small letters. All right, or you can capitalize the first letter of each word, and that's what I normally prefer, to capitalize the first letter of each word. All right, and so for this particular mandate and this particular column, that's what we are going to be doing. We are going to be capitalizing each letter in each word, or we are going to capitalize the first letter in each word, excuse me, and then we are going to merge them as one, so that we can call them full. We can call it the column name full name instead of the first name and then the last name. All right, so how are we going to go about it? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to first select this row, or this column, excuse me. I'm going to select this column, hold control, and then select this column, so that I'm able to select both column at once and then work on them simultaneously. All right, so you select the first row, the first column, excuse me, select the first column, hold down the control key, and then you select the second column as well. All right, so once we have this, you right click, and then you're going to get this drop down box. Okay, and so like I said, the first thing that we want to do is we want to merge the columns. All right, so we want to merge the columns, so we come to merge columns, click on merge columns, and then we are going to have a pop-up. Yeah, we are going to have this, and this says choose how to merge the selected columns. What separator are we going to use? So for a name like Henry Amusa, are we going to use Henry hyphen Amusa, Henry comma Amusa, or Henry space Amusa? That's just what this is asking. All right, and so what I'm going to use, I'm going to use a space. Okay, and so I'm going to click on custom, or I can just simply click on space, but just to show you that there are more options, click on custom and you can use whichever one you want. And I'm going to click space. All right, and then I'm going to call my new column name when I merge the two columns, the new name that I'm going to call it. So I'm going to call it full name. All right, and then once I'm done, I'm just going to click on OK, and that's it. So that's why now we have Emmanuel Azaglu Daisy Darkon. So I've merged the two columns as full name. So now once I have this, now we need to make, like we said, we want to make the first word capital, and then we want to capitalize the first word in the column. Okay, and so we go back again, we right click, and then we come down to transform. All right, so when it comes to transform, you have the option to either change all of them to lowercase, so we can change all of them to lowercase and you see it's affected them, or we can change all of them, excuse me, we can change all of them to uppercase and we can see that. All right, so in our case we are going to transform them by capitalizing each word. So this, right, data cleaning, so that makes it beautiful. All right, now don't forget that there are some spaces, and I said with the spaces what we do is that we use what we call the trim. All right, so now that we've capitalized each word, we've merged them, what do? We need to remove the spacing, and again we go to transform, and then we go to this is a trim, we'll trim it, and now the trim is going to remove. So before Oscar Selassie had space before Oscar Selassie. And so, but then after this, after we transformed and we use the trim, we realize that now that space has been removed. And that's the beauty of the trim and then, the transform function in here. All right. Now we come to age and realize that age is perfectly fine. So we can just change this and then use whole number. And then department. Now, another thing to also look out for is a department. Now, let's see. So look at this. You realize that account and accounts are one and the same. Admin and admin, they are one and the same. However, the spelling for this admin is different from the spelling for this admin. And so what this is doing is that it's seeing them as different, whereas they are one and the same department. Do you understand? And so we need to either format this to be like this or format this to be like this so that we have admin. And we can also format this to be like this or this to be like this so we can have just accounts or accounts. And then when you come down to look at finance and the spellings and this as capital, this as small, so we need to transform all of this so that we can just have one unique item in this particular column. So finance, 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 we just have to have one finance representing all finance. Account, accounts, just to have one account representing this account and this account. All right, and so that's what we do. So how do we go about it? We go about by using what we call replace values. All right, and so let's take for instance this account and account. Now we want to make this one, so we want to say, okay, so if this account is the same as this account but then they have different spellings, why don't we just make both of them accounts? All right, and so how do we go about that? So I come here and I right click again and I come to replace values. All right, replace values. So I click on replace values and then what do? I say accounts, value to find this account, and I'm replacing it with what? Account. And then I'm going to click on OK. And what is that going to do? Now this is going to change, or this is going to convert the accounts that I had to what account. Now let's do another one. So this is admin, but this has a capital letter, this has a small letter. And so I want to change this small letter to this capital letter and then have admin as one, but start with capital letter. All right, so we have one unique value for admin. And so again, we come to replace values. And I'm going to say, which value are we finding? We are finding this admin. And what are we replacing it with? We are replacing it with this admin. Okay. And so when we come here like so, we realize that now it's merged as one. So we have again administration. So let me see, I want to change, I need to make the administration also admin so that we have admin for all. And so replace value and then I say administration. That's the value I'm looking for, and I want to change it to what? Admin. And voila, we have it here. All right, and so yes, this marks the end of today's session. Think salary shouldn't be anything difficult. We can just make it this or whole numbers, depending on what we want to do. And then the geography is also really okay by me. I've gone through, and so yes, thank you for staying with me. And again, I appreciate you being here. I hope you learned a lot from today's lesson.